What's up, perps? We're going to go over some stuff with this school shooting um, and go over some of the things that these politicians are talking about right now, wanting to push more gun control, even though everything that they're talking about would not stop these shootings. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what actually would stop a lot of these shootings. So I've waited to do this video um, because this is another situation that's absolutely heartbreaking. Um, Look at my young children, and let's lay this out here. Anybody who goes in and harms children like this, there's a very special place in hell for that person. If you don't believe in hell and you believe that this person just disappears and automatically they're just gone, that's on you. I do believe in heaven, I do believe in hell, and there's a very special place for this person in hell. And I hope they are burning rather nicely right now. The thing that really gets to me about some of this is, besides just the loss of these children, is that our illustrious politicians, instead of actually trying to look at things that would stop situations like this, merely use them to push their own agendas, like gun control. So we're going to listen to the man starting off, Mr. Chuck Schumer, and then we're going to bounce to another segment where every town and mom's demand and a bunch of absolute blowhard idiots were out there calling for more gun control and bans and all that. So let's do the screen share. See if I can get this one right. Get some other stuff out of my way here. And I'm going to blow that up a little bit. Now, this I think was yesterday. We'll catch just a minute of this before he actually starts in with his BS from today.
Years ago, I was proud to be the author of the Brady Bill and a leader of the assault weapons bans. These were...
Okay. And he's going to lie to you from the jump right here. The assault weapons ban, when that was studied by our own illustrious government, they found out that it didn't do anything. Didn't stop anything. What did stop a lot of these crimes and a lot of these shootings getting into the 90s and stuff was, in fact, taking violent people and putting said violent people in prison for very long amounts of time so that they weren't back out on the street committing more shootings. Seems like a really simple.
Major legislative accomplishments, and they worked because they were good, common sense laws. And they passed.
Here we go. Now we're to Mr.
Madam President.
Now, my opinion of this guy, I believe he is so sleazy that he leaves a sleaze slime trail like a snail, and he practically needs people behind him with mop buckets cleaning up the slime that he leaves behind him. I've watched him and others like him for many years now, and they are absolutely horrid people. They are absolutely vile people. So, let's listen to what Mr. Chucky, the slime ball, has to say, and we'll go through it.
President, today the Senate will have a chance to act on a pernicious issue that has recently become an increasingly prevalent component in America's gun violence epidemic, the evil spread of white supremacy and domestic terrorism.
All right. Again, it's going to lie to you right from the jump. The only reason you see a rise in so-called hate crimes and things like that right now is because it's been redefined to include normal everyday things where people were just having a dispute and didn't like each other. Organizations like the Southern Poverty Law Center and others that they rely on to define these things really just started stacking the deck. As far as racism in the United States, it is more than likely right now the lowest that it has ever been. And I've said it before, I will say it again. You could take every white racist in the United States right now, and they couldn't keep a Walmart busy in an afternoon. Are there racist people? Yes, there are racist people of every brand, race, religion, nationality, you name it. I've met a lot of them through my life. What they're pushing right now is a bill that would practically make the Patriot Act seem like a warm summer breeze. This is an absolute spy on every aspect of your life bill these guys are trying to push. How do I know? Because I have covered this bill. Matter of fact, they had a couple of domestic terrorism bills. I might have thrown them in the same video and covered them at the same time, so I'd have to go back and actually look. But yeah, this is all about domestic spying. And for you guys that are ex-military, it doesn't matter what color you are, these people consider you a domestic terrorist or at best a possible domestic terrorist.
In the past 2 weeks, the United States has endured two of the most traumatic mass shootings that we have seen in recent history. In my home state of New York, in the beloved city of Buffalo, 10 black Americans were gunned down in broad daylight by a white supremacist, armed with an AR-15 and whose mind was poisoned by online conspiracies. White supremacists.
So he's telling you a couple of things right there, and I'm going to let him play a little bit longer. He's telling you a couple of things right there. One, they're going after the guns. Two, they're going after anything you say online. See, the cool thing about watching these people for so long is they can't help but to tell on themselves. And they do it in various ways. One is projection. Two, they just come out and they say it. Three, they try to hide it in between some other stuff. But if you listen to them, they always tell on themselves.
Conspiracies. And 2 days ago, 19 children, 8-year-olds.
Let me touch on this just because if you believe that taking away guns is going to solve this issue, you're absolutely wrong. If you believe that this has to be a choice in between dead children and owning firearms, you are absolutely wrong. This doesn't have to be a binary choice. We have always owned weapons in the United States. Always. Always, since before the United States was the United States, we have always owned arms. There is no binary choice here, one side or the other. We can do both. In fact, in the past, we have done both. This isn't a choice in between guns and more dead children. If you make that argument, you're an absolute moron. You deserve no respect at all whatsoever. All right, let's get back to
9-year-olds, 10-year-olds, kids on the verge of beginning summer, kids with their entire lives ahead of them. We saw them holding up their trophies and proudly in their T-shirts. And a few hours later, they were gone, slaughtered in the predominantly Latino town of Uvalde, Texas. 2 teachers, including a mother of...
Now, he has to throw race out there in this. He has to. What he won't throw out is that this shooter was also Latino. So why is it um, with this Latino who goes out and shoots other Latinos? Just I'm trying to say what he's saying here. Why would you push a white supremacism, domestic terrorism, spying bill? Now, the doofus in Buffalo, the absolute piece of shit. Um, the good thing about him is he didn't get a chance to kill himself. And I promise you, if I can ever come across the information on where he is in prison, and if I could possibly get a hold of someone who is in there with him, I would put money on that person's books every week if they were using his whatever like an amusement park. But maybe that's just me.
Or were killed alongside them. Many more were injured and remain in critical conditions. It was the worst school shooting in America since Sandy Hook. Last night, I looked at the pictures of each of those kids online, and I wept.
I will guarantee he didn't weep. I will guarantee you he didn't. But he's going to stand on those little children's bodies. Me, I didn't hear about this shooting till I got home and I was listening to John Crump. And while I was listening to his show, I looked up what was happening. And at that point, there were multiple news reports. Some said that there were two children shot, one adult. It was going back and forth. One was 14 kids, whatever. I walked in and hugged my 5-year-old. She was in the living room. I'm in my office. So yeah, thoughts about this really hit home with me. I mean, they did before I had kids, but they certainly do now. When I have a 5-year-old and I have a 2-year-old. So anybody out there who would tell me you just love your guns more than you love your kids, eat a bag of them. Big ones, small ones, little ones. I don't care. You are an intellectually dishonest person. Period. You are focused on one thing, which is gun control and banning all guns, and you will climb up on any kid's body to push your agenda. Much like this sleazeball.
Taken from us, taken from their families through senseless gun violence. I can't stop thinking about the parents, too, who lost their kids. I can't stop imagining the paralyzing horror of being one of the parents showing up to the school after the shooting, wondering where their kid was, the anxiety that will live with these parents forever. Forced to wait hours before a DNA test confirmed that their son or daughter was gone.
Now, why would he push that point? It's all about the imagery. Trying to say that 223 or that 5.56 round is just such a destructive thing that they couldn't even identify anybody. Now, obviously, a 223 or a 5.56 round going through a child, especially at close range, is going to do serious damage. And it should never be allowed to happen. But politicians like this will let it happen time after time after time after time because they're not worried about those children. They're worried about pushing their agenda.
I cannot imagine a hell worse than that. And these families, my colleagues, don't want thoughts and prayers. They want their elected leaders to respond to their suffering. They don't want to be lifted up. They don't want good intentions. They want something to change. They want results. Yet, the MAGA Republicans don't want to get...
And see, this bugs the shit out of me. They started this MAGA Republican thing not too long back. That's one of their new catchphrases. And it drives me up a freaking wall. All their stuff is focus group tested, and it's just, I have zero respect for people like him and a lot of people in Congress. I have tons of disdain for them, and that is putting it very much mildly.
To results. They're ossified in their opposition to any action on gun safety. No matter the cause of violence and no matter the cost on the families, nothing seems to move them. Yesterday, after Beto O'Rourke confronted Texas Governor Abbott's press conference, the MAGA governor gave some empty platitudes about healing and hope.
See, there we go again. Trying to make Beto O'Rourke's little stunt the other day seem like something that was had some valor or some honor to it.
He asked people to put their agendas aside and think about someone other than themselves. My God. How dare he? What an absolute fraud the governor of Texas is.
See, here we go with the projection. Told you, always tell on themselves.
And this is the same Governor Abbott who tomorrow, will go speak at the NRA convention in Houston.
The good old NRA boogeyman. Over 100 million gun owners, probably close to 140 right now. The NRA has less members than Moms Demand Action. I do believe, if you looked it up, they've probably got less members than Everytown. And the leadership of the NRA has been absolutely useless for decades. But they're the most well-known, name-wise organization out there. So they have to be the boogeyman. If it was up to me, the NRA could shut up, completely shut their doors, and go away. And it would actually be better for gun owners to let people like Firearms Policy Coalition to take the reins, or Gun Owners of America to take the reins. Again, this isn't a binary choice in between firearms and dead children, or giving up firearms and no dead children. That is a bullshit argument. It always has been. It always will be.
Governor Abbott, will you ask your MAGA buddies and your NRA pals to put aside their agendas and think of someone other than themselves, like you asked the families to do? Will you ask the gun manufacturing reps who will swarm over the NRA convention to put aside their agendas and think about someone other than themselves? Of course not. The Governor Abbott, is more likely to outline some new plan to further loosen gun restrictions. No amount of bloodshed seems to be enough.
No, the deal is, much like in New York when this POS went into this grocery store to go shoot people. I will guarantee you, if he knew he was going to have to try to do that through a wall of gunfire because people in there were carrying firearms, he would not have done that. You see, these little shits who want to do these shootings are nutless wonders who just want to inflict pain on someone else. And they want to be talked about like this, whether it's on the news or the halls of Congress. They want that infamy, the notoriety. If they were put in the ground before they could really get rolling, well, then there would be less of them trying to step up. And anybody who says, well, no, you're wrong. No, I'm right. And we've seen what people with arms can do to stop these shooters. We've seen it in a church in Texas where, yes, the guy with a shotgun, I think he was able to kill one person. Wanted to kill many more. Only he caught a .357 SIG to the head and it put his lights out. Because there were people there, private people, trained with arms. These people are cowards.
For MAGA Republicans, this nation is enraged as well as being exhausted.
Oh, I'm enraged. Buddy, I passed rage a long time ago with this shit. Because instead of actually doing things about this, when you have bills in Congress that would outline how to harden these schools, they wouldn't look like prisons. They wouldn't look like some freaking whatever. They could be aesthetically pleasing. They can be hardened to where no one will be able to do shit like this. But you assholes block any bill that has anything to do with that, and you call it the militarization of schools. But your ass has walls around you. Because you're important.
It's been through this over and over and over again over the last two decades. People are sick of mourning again and again while listening to the same string of hollow words from the MAGA Republicans that never lead to action. So, Madam President?
Now, again, he's talking about 20 years. These so-called MAGA Republicans have only been around for, what, the last 6? These are some of the most intellectually dishonest people you will ever see in your life. This is all about control for them. It's nothing to do with safety. It's nothing to do about saving kids. Talk about pissed? Haha, buddy, you don't know pissed.
So in a few moments, the Senate will have to have a chance to vote on one important cause of gun violence. The legislation before the Senate today is the Domestic Terrorism Protection Act, which I scheduled for a vote earlier this week, before what happened in Uvalde occurred. It was done to respond to the massacre at a supermarket in Buffalo. The bill is so important because the mass shooting in Buffalo was an act of domestic terrorism. We need to call it what it is, domestic terrorism. It was terrorism that fed off the poison of conspiracy theories like
Now, is he going to mention at all that this shooter in Buffalo was basically an avowed communist? See, these idiots will change the wording, they will change the history to fit a narrative. Much like the Nazi Party in Germany, they weren't right wing, they were socialists. It was the National Socialist Workers' Party. And believe it or not, they thought the Democrats had a good game plan. The Democrats were just a little too extreme for the Nazis.
White replacement theory, terrorism that left 10 people dead, a community forever torn asunder.
Now, again, this white replacement theory. This is again getting into the online speech. So if you say something like, we shouldn't have open borders where anybody is coming across, and then those anybody's are able to vote in our elections, you're a white replacement person. You guys don't realize how deep this stuff is going to go. And what kills me, and I heard another guy say it, and I've thought it plenty of times. How is it if I post something with a gun, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all of them can find that within seconds. But if you post a threat, or you post something like this shooter apparently did, saying he shot his grandmother, all of a sudden they can't find that. They could find me posting a video putting together a fucking P80, but they can't find the child predator. There's something not meshing here.
This bill will give the government the tools to monitor, find, and arrest these evil actors before they have a chance to inflict violence on their communities. And I thank my colleague, Senator Durbin.
Now, and I didn't listen to this. To find them and arrest them before they have a chance to commit violence on their communities. How do you arrest someone before they actually commit a crime? Now, I can see finding someone who is making a terroristic threat online, because terroristic threats are a crime, and going and dealing with that person. I can see going to a person who has posted stuff online that is violent and has threats in it or something like that, and having that person involuntarily committed to a psychological examination. I can see those things. Him just saying arrested right there before the person, and then you want a domestic spying bill?
For championing this bill. I've been going to bed every night thinking about the families I met in Buffalo in the aftermath of the shooting. I think about this little 3-year-old boy. He lost his dad, who went to that Tops grocery store to buy him a birthday cake for his son. That little boy's going to live with that the rest of his life.
Now, Buffalo shooter was apparently on the radar of law enforcement before he went to pulling triggers. So tell me something here, Chucky boy. Um, None of the BS laws that you have passed in your state stop this guy. When law enforcement was in contact with him, knowing he was a credible threat, nothing happened. I think this guy got 2 hours worth of evaluation one time. Every state in the union has laws where you can involuntarily commit somebody to a mental institution. Why was this guy not? Considering he had published a manifesto, all the other crap this guy had done, law enforcement fails again. Gun laws completely failed people because they were not allowed to defend themselves. And then you want to make more people defenseless victims.
The rest of his life. And I think of all the families impacted by other racially motivated shootings over the years. Buffalo's certainly an unfortunate.
Okay. Will this guy mention the black gentleman on the subway who wanted to kill white people? Will he mention the guy who drove his SUV into a crowd of white people because he wanted to kill white people? Will he mention the guy a couple of years ago that shot a white kid? I think he was 6 or 8 years old. He just walked up and juiced him because he wanted to kill white people. Will you mention any of those? Will you mention the guy who was of Asian descent and had problems with other people of Asian descent just the other day, a week or two ago, who locked down a church and went to shooting people? I'm just asking here, but honestly, we already know the answer.
He wasn't the first. Charleston, El Paso, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, and so many others.
All right. Atlanta, and he's talking about the guy who shot the Asian women in the massage parlors. This dude had a sex addiction. He blamed the women for his sex addiction. That's why he shot him. Had jack shit to do with race. But you got to push the narrative.
Shooting of Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans, gay Americans, Jewish Americans, as well as black Americans.
Is he going to mention some of the shooting of Jewish Americans was done by people who were members of the Black Hebrew Israelites? No, they'll talk about white hate and domestic terrorism all day long. Again, intellectually dishonest people pushing an agenda. It's got jack shit to do with saving anybody's life. If it was, they would be honest about their discussions with this. They would mention the racism on all sides. When he talks about the shooting of gay people, he doesn't mention that the person who did that in the Pulse nightclub was not some straight white guy.
All because of this horrible white replacement theory.
So he just mentioned a bunch of shootings. A lot of those shootings were done by people other than white people. And he brings that down to white replacement theory. How does a black guy, a member of the black Hebrew Israelites who goes to a grocery store and starts capping Jewish people have jack shit to do with white replacement theory. Asking for a friend.
So today is the day we can begin to debate on how to make these shootings less likely. And there's an additional benefit to moving forward today. It's a chance to have a larger debate and consider amendments for gun safety legislation in general, not just for those motivated by racism, as vital as it is to do that. I know that many members...
Okay. If you have not been paying attention for quite a long time now, again, focus tested slogan here went from gun control to gun safety or common sense gun safety. So every time he mentions gun safety, it's gun control. It's bans, it's restrictions, it's buybacks. This guy would vote for confiscation in a New York second. So would Dianne Feinstein and many other Democrats. And some Republicans.
on the other side hold views that are different than the views on this side of the aisle. So, let us move on this bill, let us proceed, and then they can bring them to the floor. Senator Johnson brought a bill to the floor yesterday about school security practices. I didn't agree with the bill, and I don't think it's the answer to mass shootings. We don't need more guns in the schools. There were security guards at the supermarket in Buffalo, police and security at the school in Uvalde.
There was a single security guard, I believe, at the grocery store. And I think he actually did put a round into the shooter. Shooter was wearing body armor. They've been trying to push bills against body armor for a long time. Expect more bills pushing restrictions on body armor. Because why would you want someone to be able to wear something that would actually stop a bullet?
So, but we can debate it. The same with Senator Cruz's plan to limit schools to only one door. Fire marshals and tactical experts totally and vehemently disagree.
That's not Cruz's bill to limit things to one door. I've just breezed through a couple things. You can make schools very much secure without them looking like a prison by controlling entry and exit. You can have multiple entry points. You can have multiple exit points. You just have to control those areas. Okay? Much like an area that I'm very familiar with, you don't have a door surrounded by basically just tempered glass. And I think that's part of what happened in Sandy Hook. Well, yes, you have a door there, but it's surrounded by big things of glass that can be easily kicked out. And someone could just knock glass out and move right in. Again, anything that would secure these buildings, these schools, these people are completely against. They're not worried about the bodies. They don't care about the bodies unless they can use them.
Let's debate it. And there are other senators with other proposals. Proposals that come from our side of the aisle. Background checks, red flag laws, the Charleston loop.
Okay, this asshole who did this shooting in this school passed background checks. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas passed background checks. The guy from Sandy Hook passed background checks. What the hell did background checks do to stop those shootings? So if I look a little freaking ill, it's because I am. Background checks don't stop anything. They never have. And the fact is, these guns save way more lives than they take every year, every day. I really wasn't planning on this video being this pissed off. I will leave the niceties to people like Jared from Guns and Gadgets, and others who can actually put this forward without necessarily the emotion behind it. Again, this shooter passed background checks. They want the background checks, especially the universal background checks, so that they can push more of a registry. Because the only way to enforce a universal background check is to know basically every second whether someone owns that firearm or not. And I'm still wondering whether it's going to be like a yearly tax thing where you have to pay a tax on each firearm you own so that they can track each firearm you own to make sure you didn't sell it on the side.
Assault weapons, and other ideas. Look, I know the chances of getting 10 votes on this bill are small, unfortunately, given the influence of MAGA Republicans. Many Republicans have made their opposition clear. Again, there are a lot of MAGA Republicans for whom no amount of gun violence, whether it's domestic terrorism, a school shooting, a neighborhood shooting, or something else, will ever convince them.
This is a guy who has blocked every single bill that would secure these schools. This is a guy who has blocked every single bill that would help to alleviate these issues without stripping people of their rights. It is all about the gun for idiots like this. It's got nothing to do with protecting these children.
To take any action. So, Madam President, if Republicans obstruct debate today, we are prepared to have an honest and realistic discussion, conversation, negotiation, for a little more time to see what they can come to the table.
Now, he's warning you right here that if Republicans don't get on board with this, that they're just going to go do away with a filibuster and they're going to start cramming stuff through. It's exactly where he is going. That has everything to do with guns, the Supreme Court, because they want to pack it.
Table with. We are under no illusions that this will be easy. We have been burned in the past when Republicans promised to debate only for them to break their promise. But even with long odds, the issue is so important, so raw to the American people, so personal to countless families who have missing children, that we must pursue that opportunity. We also know that the American people, as many as 80 or 90%, support gun safety legislation. We have an obligation.
Again, another absolute lie. Because when they ask these questions on these surveys, they ask them in a way, it's kind of like a sales pitch. you're basically programming someone to say yes without knowing all the facts.
To pursue every path and explore every realistic option to break the cycle of suffering and inaction. Not trying everything is not acceptable to the families who have lost their loved ones to our nation's gun epidemic, to those beautiful children we see pictures of in the newspaper and their families. We have to try everything. We must not leave a single stone unturned. Senator Murphy, who has been such a strong and valiant leader within our caucus,
have to try everything, except the stuff that we know will work, which is basically hardening these buildings to where someone can't just walk in and start shooting. His everything is getting rid of anything that goes bang. That's his everything. If it'll save just one. Whereas these firearms that we use all the time, that are tools, merely tools, inanimate objects, save hundreds of thousands of lives every year.
On gun safety legislation, and who has seen the suffering firsthand of the families at Sandy Hook, who he's become very close to, has asked for space to see what progress can be done with Senate Republicans. Neither he nor I is under an illusion that this will be easy. It will not. But his view, my view, and the overwhelming view of our caucus is that we need to give it a short amount of time to try. There are others, too, in this caucus reaching out to our Republican colleagues as we speak. Senator Blumenthal, Senator Coons, Senator Heinrich, Senator Manchin, and others. We have also been in talks with our allies.
Now, Manchin, again, with a Republican, I may it Manchin to me, whatever it was, tried to put forward a bill to harden these schools, to put people in place that could protect these schools. And this jackass shot it down. If I was Manchin, no, I'll leave that alone.
Cross-gun advocacy groups, and we all have a strong and burning desire to see something real, something tangible come together here in the Senate. Again, none of us are under any illusions that this will be easy. None of us want to let this drag out. We know all too well the vice grip that the NRA and the MAGA wing hold over the GOP, and we have been burned in the past. America has been burned in the past. After the shootings in El Paso.
Now, talking about the NRA burning someone in the past, the only people that the NRA has burned in the past have been gun owners. Because they signed on to shit like the Brady Bill, and the background checks, and the bump stock ban.
Paso and Dayton 3 years ago, the Republican leader promised that red flag laws and background checks would be front and center in a Senate debate. He didn't put them on the floor, and Republicans did nothing. But that's not an excuse for Democrats not to try. Too many families have suffered. Too many kids have been lost. Too many communities have been destroyed. This is too important not to explore every option. I want to be clear. This is not an invite to negotiate indefinitely. Make no mistake about it.
No, it's not an invite to negotiate at all. This is you agree with us or else.
If these negotiations do not bear fruit in a short period of time, the Senate will vote on gun legislation, gun safety legislation. Let me repeat, if these negotiations do not bear any fruit, the Senate will vote on gun safety legislation when we return. But our hope, even amidst our deep skepticism, is that during this week, Democrats and Republicans at long last will come to agree on something meaningful that will reduce gun violence in a real way in America. Senator Murphy and some of our colleagues believe that it's worth a chance, and we will give it that chance. Unfortunately, though, Republicans haven't come forward in too long a time. There hasn't been this debate in too long a time. But even though it hasn't happened in too long a time, we feel an obligation to give it a chance. I yield the floor.
All right, I was gonna go through a whole nother video with this rally thing. I'm gonna leave that. I still might film it tonight, but I'm gonna leave it for right now. You guys buckle up. And for all of you who said, "Oh, these bills will never pass. Oh, these don't matter," I'll show you a video, and if I can get past all the other crap, I'll show you a video on why these bills that I've talked about could possibly still drop. The cat, what are you doing? Yeah, I'm talking to an actual cat. So, I'm out right now. I'm going to try to cool my jets before I do another video. You guys be cool. Love on your kids. Even if your kids are older. And get ready. There's a lot of stuff coming right now. So, y'all be cool. Peace out.